Good morning, guys. Frank here, and welcome to Frank's Perspective, my YouTube channel. You know, I've been saying for a while now that I was going to start a YouTube channel, and I'm finally getting around to it. So, as I've said before, this YouTube channel is going to be my perspective on an array of different topics, the Bible, along with other things. So here lately, I've been just reading over the story of Joseph. A very prominent figure in the, I'd say, back half of the book of Genesis. His story begins in Genesis chapter 37. So, I figured that's where I would start today. Genesis chapter 37, and I'm going to go through, a little bit and give my perspective after reading a little bit of his story today, and then continue his story through a separate video. So here we go. If y'all will just allow me a moment to prepare. Okay, Genesis chapter 37. This is where we see the beginning of how God plans to use Joseph. Here we go. Genesis chapter 37. Joseph's dreams. So Jacob settled again in the land of Canaan, where his father had lived as a foreigner. This is the account of Jacob and his family. When Joseph was 17 years old, he often tended his father's flocks. He worked for his half-brothers, the sons of his father's wives, Bilhah and Zilpah. And again, sorry if I get some names wrong. I'm not really good with certain names in the Bible, but you get the point. But Joseph reported to his father some of the bad things his brothers were doing. Jacob loved Joseph more than any of his other children, because Joseph had been born to him in an old age. So one day, Jacob had a special gift made for Joseph, a beautiful robe. But his brothers hated Joseph because their father loved him more than the rest of them. They couldn't say a kind word to him. One night Joseph had a dream, and when he told his brothers about it, they hated him more than ever. "Listen to this dream," he said. "We were out in the fields, tying up bundles of grain. Suddenly, my bundle stood up, and your bundles all gathered around and bowed low before mine." His brothers responded, "So you think you will be our king, do you? Do you actually think you will reign over us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dreams. in the way he talked about them. Soon, Joseph had another dream, and again he told his brothers about it. "Listen, I have had another dream," he said. "The sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed low before me." This time, he told the dream to his father as well as to his brothers. But his father scolded him. "What kind of dream is that?" he asked. "Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow to the ground before you?" But while his brothers were jealous of Joseph, his father wondered what the dreams meant. Soon after this, Joseph's brothers went to pasture their father's flocks in Shechem. When they had been gone for some time, Jacob said to Joseph, "Your brothers are pasturing the sheep at Shechem. Get ready, and I will send you to them." I'm ready to go," Joseph replied. "Go and see how your brothers in the flock are getting along," Jacob said. "Then come back and bring me a report." So Jacob sent him on his way, and Joseph traveled to Shechem from their home in the valley of Hebron. When he arrived there, a man from the area noticed him wandering around the countryside. "What are you looking for?" he asked. "I'm looking for my brothers," Joseph replied. "Do you know where they are pasturing their sheep?" "Yes," the man told him. They have moved on from there, but I heard them say, 'Let's go on to Dorif.'" So Joseph followed his brothers to Dorif and found them. Joseph sold into slavery. When Joseph's brothers saw him coming, they recognized him in the distance. As he approached them, they made plans to kill him. "Here comes the dreamer," they said. "Come on, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns. We can tell our father a wild animal has eaten him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams." But when Reuben heard of their scheme, he came to Joseph's rescue. "Let's not kill him," he said. "Why should we shed any blood? Let's just throw him into this empty cistern here in the wilderness. Then he'll die without our laying a hand on him." Reuben was secretly planning to rescue Joseph and return him to his father. So when Joseph arrived, his brothers ripped off the beautiful robe he was wearing. Then they grabbed him and threw him into the cistern. Now the cistern was empty. There was no water in it. Then, just as they were sitting down to eat, they looked up and saw a caravan of camels in the distance, coming towards them. It was a group of Ishmaelite traders taking a load of gum, blom, and aromatic resin from Galilee down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, "What will we gain by killing our brother? We'd have to cover up the crime. Instead of hurting him, let's sell him to those Ishmaelite traders. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood." And his brothers agreed. So when the Ishmaelites, who were Mennonite traders, came by, Joseph's brothers pulled him out of the seeker and sold him to them for 20 pieces of silver. And the traders took him to Egypt. Sometime later, Reuben returned to get Joseph out of the seeker. When he discovered that Joseph was missing, he tore his clothes in grief. Then he went back to his brothers and lamented, "The boy is gone. What will I do now?" Then the brothers killed a young goat and dipped Joseph's robe in its blood. They sent the beautiful robe to their father with a message. "Look at what we found. Doesn't this robe belong to your son?" Their father recognized it immediately. "Yes," he said, "it is my son's robe. A wild animal must have eaten him. Joseph has clearly been torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes and dressed himself in burlap. He mourned deeply for his son, for a long time. His family all tried to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. "I will go to my grave mourning for my son," he would say, and then he would weep. Meanwhile, the Mennonite traders arrived in Egypt, where they sold Joseph to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Potiphar was captain of the palace guard. Okay, so I'm gonna stop reading right there for now and talk about some of what's going on here. So we see in Genesis chapter 37, it all starts with the brothers' jealousy of Joseph. But why is that jealousy there? Some of it is Joseph and his telling of the dreams, and some of it is Jacob and his favoritism of Joseph. Now the Bible says the reason why Jacob favored Joseph over all his other sons is because Joseph was born to him at an old age. And so Jacob favored Joseph. If you really look It started out as he would tend flock with his brothers. But once Joseph made the decision to report the things that his brothers were doing to their father, and it doesn't say what they were doing, it just says that it was bad things. But once Joseph made the decision to report these things to Jacob, it really, Jacob made it Joseph's job to become the one who would report on his brothers, right? Now, I don't know, but even in today's age, nobody likes to be told upon. In today's age, we call it snitching, right? No one likes a snitch. And that's essentially what Joseph had become. So that didn't help Joseph's relationship with his brothers. And it got so bad that when Jacob sends Joseph to go check on his brothers, they had become so jealous of him because of this and because of the telling of the dreams, where he flat out tells, his brothers, in my dream, we were stacking bundles of grain, and your grains bowed low to mine. As an older sibling, I don't know how I would feel if my younger sibling told me that they had a dream that signified me bowing down to them. So, in that moment, I think I can see how Joseph's brothers could and would become upset with him. But then again, a few days later, he's telling of another dream that signifies that they would bow down to him. And this time, not only his brothers, but he's telling this to his father. And even his father questions him about the second dream. He says, are you telling me that even I and your mother will bow down to you one day? But even then, we see that while Jacob was scolding Joseph, basically, getting on to Joseph for telling this dream, later he goes and he wonders what the dream means. And as we continue in Joseph's story, we'll see that every dream that he has significance, not only for Joseph, but for those around him later on in his story. And why is that? For those of us who are familiar with the story, we know that that's because these dreams were given to him, sent to him by God. In this way, Joseph becomes a prophet later in his story. Because even here, we'll see as we get into later down in the story, Joseph is prophesizing to his brothers and to his father, the future of what is to come for not only him but them as well. But we're getting way too far ahead in that. But I just wanted to set the stage for what's going to be going on later as we go on in the story of Joseph. But I really want to talk about some things that in this chapter 37 of Genesis, really stuck out to me, even in the way in which Joseph is treated by his father and by his brothers, and how the brothers go so far as to kill an innocent animal to cover up what they had done to Joseph, and even looking into the way their father reacts when he finds out that in his mind, Joseph, his favorite son, has been killed. So here, after he goes to the door, remember, Jacob sends him to Shechem because that's where Jacob believes the brothers are. But when he gets to Shechem, an unknown man tells him, yeah, they were here, but now they've moved to Dorif. So as he finds them in Dorif, even in that moment, we see the brothers' jealousy. So much to the point that they're making a plan to kill their younger brother. And I'm sure seeing him walking towards them and knowing the dreams that he had told to them, and seeing him in that special robe that his father had made for him, didn't help, their jealousy subside. But they're making plans to kill their brother. That's how bad it's gotten. But we see two brothers, even in that, we see two brothers of his. Reuben, who I believe was the oldest, and Judah, who in different ways protect Joseph from the others. As they're making plans to kill him, it's Reuben that speaks out and says, why don't we just throw him into this seething, which, if I'm reading that correctly, I believe was a water well. And again, I might be wrong, but the way it reads, it sounds like it was a water well. So Reuben says, let's throw him into the water well. But Reuben, in that moment, already has a plan to rescue his younger brother and bring him back home. Right? So we see Reuben thinking, even though I'm mad with my brother and I have hatred for what he's told me about his dreams and me bowing down to him one day and all these things. We see that Reuben has enough compassion for Joseph to try to save him later. So they agree to throw him into this water well. They take him, rip off the special robe that the father had made, and throw him into this water well and go on about their business. They begin to eat, right? So, while they're eating, they see these Mennonite traders coming from, I believe it said, Gilead? Gilead? I don't know, I'd have to go back and look. And they're going on to Egypt in this moment. I want you to pay attention because all of these things, are meticulous planning by God Himself. God has a plan for Joseph. And in that plan, Joseph must suffer to be prepared for what is to come later. And we'll get into that, in a later video as we continue to see what happens with Joseph in his story. But as they see these Mennonite traders coming along on their way to Egypt, his brother Judah, and this is the second brother that stands up in a sense, saves Joseph because of Judah and Reuben. We see that Joseph is not killed. He's sold into slavery, which, isn't much better in that day and time. But it's better than, what they had initially planned for Joseph. So there's that. And that's God saving Joseph for his future plans. For the greater plans that God has for Joseph, even in those moments. Right? Says, hey, here's some Mennonite traders coming along. Instead of killing him, because what do we get out of it? Now, see, here's the thing. Even though Judah saves Joseph's life from death in that moment, he's still greedy, just like the rest of his brothers. He still has the greed. Maybe Reuben had seen the error of his ways by this point. Maybe that's why Reuben had the plan to come back and save Joseph and take him back home. But, at some point, all the brothers had greed. We're seeing it play out in this moment. So they sell him to the Mennonite traders for 20 pieces of silver, it says. Now, I don't know the worth of 20 pieces of silver, in that day and age, but I'm pretty sure, the worth of that was very significant for that day and age. 20 pieces of silver today. I'm not sure if it's worth today, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be as worth as much as what it was in that day. So whatever, they sold him for 20 pieces of silver. But I want you to see what happens next. Sorry. I want you to see what happens next. Sorry. even after that, this is how far their jealousy has brought them. They take the opportunity to kill a baby goat and dip Joseph's robes in its blood. So, I want to, digest that for a minute. Their jealousy of Joseph has gone so far that they're willing to kill an innocent animal to cover up what they had actually done to Joseph. Because it says there that they dipped his robe in its blood and sent it to their father. And used that as evidence to tell their father, hey, while you sent him out looking for us, he was attacked. And not only was he attacked, but he was killed by a wild animal, which was their plan to begin with. Once they had said we're going to kill him, they said we're going to use this excuse as a way to take the suspicion off of us and put it on the fact that Joseph was in a foreign land and he got attacked by animals. And even in doing that, they see the kind of pain that their father Jacob is going through with the news. The man tore his clothes and didn't want to be comforted and said, I will go to my grave mourning the loss of my son Joseph. But I want to backtrack for a second because I did forget to mention this. Reuben, I'm guessing, wasn't there when they sold Joseph to the Mennonites, because it goes on to say after that Reuben came back to the well to retrieve Joseph as he had planned. But then he saw that Joseph was gone, and even he tore his clothes in grief, and then lamented to the others, the boy is gone, Joseph is gone, what do we do? And that's when they make the plan to kill the innocent goat and dip the robe in the goat's blood. I say all that to say this. Have you ever been in a situation where somebody hated you so much that they were willing to hurt you and others to make themselves feel better? Because that's essentially what Joseph's brothers did here. They hated him so much. And again, Joseph telling them his dreams, and knowing he was the favorite and showing that off didn't help matters. But no matter what someone does, it doesn't make what they did okay, right? So I ask you, have you ever done anything in your life that would make somebody hate you that much, or are you on the other side of that? Do you hate somebody so much that you would be willing to do something to them and then cover it up, cover your own tracks? And I'm not asking would you be willing to kill somebody or sell them into slavery, but would you be willing and able to do something to them just because you don't like them? Or would they be willing to do something to you just because they don't like you because you did or said something to them that maybe they didn't agree with? You know, food for thought. And again, you know, you can take it with a grain of salt if you want, but I really want you to think about this. Is there something that you've done in your life or that's been done to you that you need to forgive somebody for, or you need to be forgiven for? If so, I urge you to reach out to that person. You know, be the one to extend the olive branch and repair that relationship, or at least begin the beginning steps of repairing that relationship. Because just as much as we're alive today, we don't know if we'll be alive tomorrow. We don't know when the good Lord is calling us to be home with Him. You know, today is today, but I could be with the Lord tomorrow. So, you know, I encourage you that if there is a relationship in your life, whether it be family, friends, a partner, that for some reason that relationship has been strained, whether it's because of something you did or something they did, or maybe both of y'all did something to each other to strain that relationship, take the first step. Reach out to that person and try to amend that relationship, you know. I'll tell you something, you know. There's a lot that's been done to me wrong in my life, you know, and I haven't forgiven everybody who's done wrong to me, but I am trying to be a better man. You know, I'm trying to move on with my life and forgive those who have trespassed against me. You know, and I'm not saying that that's an easy thing. Never will be, right? But if we want to be better people, we have to start to forgive those who trespass against us and realize what we did to sour that relationship. Again, whether it's family, friends, significant other, whatever that might be for you. And it might be more than one person. It might be one family member. It might be your significant other. You could have many different relationships that you have to rebuild. But as long as we have the solid foundation of God Himself, of Jesus Christ Himself, we can build on that foundation. Even if that foundation, you know, the things above it have been fractured, we can bring it back together. as long as it's built upon the foundation of Jesus Christ. And maybe you're somebody who's saying this for the first time and you're not a follower of Jesus Christ. That's okay, because Jesus looks out for all of us. Not just those who believe in him, but everyone. There's a song that I love that says, he leaves the 99 to go after the one. Think about that for a second. He leaves the 99 to go after the one. Why is that? Because he knows that the 99 are safe, while the one is still wandering around in the wilderness, and he wants to bring that one into his flock. Right? So, what are we called to do as men and women of the belief? We are meant to be casted out to find that one, right? So, who is that one that you need to find? Who is that one relationship that you need to mend? Is it a parent? Is it a girlfriend? Is it a boyfriend? Is it your husband? Is it your wife? Is it your best friend? Is it a coworker? Is it a coworker that maybe you don't see eye to eye, but you know that person needs a friend, right? I urge you to reach out and be a friend to everyone, and pray for everyone. Specifically, pray for your enemies. Because those are the ones who, even though you might not like them, they may need the most prayer, and you may be the only man or woman of God that they see that day. So pray for them. Anyway, again, my question: has anyone done anything to you that hurt you, that maybe you hate them because they did this? I know that's happened to me, and I know I'm still working on, forgiving those people. But every day I pray for the ability to one day set my anger aside and my pride aside, so that, not for them, but for me, so that I can no longer harbor pain and resentment. And again, it's not an easy thing. I'm not saying, you go out there and it's going to be an easy deal. But what I am saying is that if you don't do it, you won't have peace in your own heart. Because the forgiveness isn't for them as much as it is for yourself. Anyway, guys, that's my thoughts on what's going on with Joseph in chapter 37. And we'll see as we go on how God sets Joseph up for bigger things, for bigger triumphs. So for today, just remember, be a friend, even to those who you have disagreements with. Alright guys, this has been Frank's Perspective, and I will check you guys later. Please remember, if you like the video, please like, subscribe, comment. I would love to hear anything that y'all might want my opinion on, whether it's the Bible, whether it's sports, relationships, whatever. Like, subscribe, and comment. And if you got something out of this video, please share the video. I think there's a lot of people that could get something out of this message. Anyway, that's been my perspective for the day, and I'll see you guys very soon. Have a great day, and peace out.